So on site here in Norfolk, Virginia at the Tidewater Side Park, where there have been certain reports that Filipino workers were actually detained without charges under the Carnival Sunshine Cruise. And just trying to get some words here on a couple people, trying to get some interviews, but also get some words from the leaders of the PCW, the Filipino Workers Conference, as well as the NAACP on the current situation. They will be given a small press conference outlining the issues and the same things, calling to action. So we'll go ahead and get a couple interviews as well on other spectators and other people that came here to be able to help out and to be able to spread the word, to be able to call to action on this manifestation for their release, but also to be able to get some clarification and bring to light this whole situation with the problem with the whole civil rights and lack of due process, even for legally visa workers in the United States. So we're going to go ahead and get some words out there. Okay, and then whenever you're ready, if I can get your name.
Hi, I'm Aquilina Soriano Versosa.
And then what is the organization you're representing?
I'm the Executive Director of the Philipino Workers Center of Southern California.
And then what brings you here today besides actually informing people of the current events happening with immigration and the detaining of 10 and as of a couple of seconds ago, now 11 immigrant workers on the Carnival Cruise?
Yes, well, we're here today to really send a message that we shouldn't. We're here today to send a message that Filipino crew members are being targeted for unjust immigration actions. And today, the cruise ship has docked and already another crew member has been taken. And actually, the number now, including today, would be 22. So 21 members over the past 4 months have been taken when they've docked in the port here in Norfolk. What's happening is that the seafarers are being approached and interrogated by CBP, are being falsely accused of watching child pornography, the seafarers openly share their phones and all their devices and really proclaim their innocence, that they are not that they are innocent of that charge. They are never formally charged, and no evidence is found, but they are still deported, and they are having their visas canceled that they had worked very hard for to get these positions, to be able to support their families, and they also get a 10-year ban. So that means that they can no longer work on the cruise ships for 10 years, and that really is such a financial blow to them and their families as well.
And have you seen any other of these similar situations happening with other cruises in other different ports, or has it just been specifically here in Norfolk as of recently?
Well, we have had reports of it happening in other places as well. So there is reports from Florida at Fort Canaveral, and then also in the Great Lakes area as well, like Detroit and also Minnesota, that workers are being accused but having no charges filed against them, them not being convicted of anything and still being deported. So in Florida, we've got reports of like 80 Filipino workers who have been already detained and deported.
And with Hampton Roads being one of the larger areas of the Filipino community, as well as you mentioned, in areas in California and the Great Lakes, those are actually being locations that are definitely high immigration, high different nationality and ethnic groups, as we've seen with the LA raids and most of California and Texas. How do you feel that this is going to be affecting the Filipino community, the Pinoy community here in Norfolk, Virginia, and across Hampton Roads?
Mm-hmm. Well, they are our countrymen, and we're in solidarity, from the Filipino American community here. This is really a targeting of Filipinos. Overwhelmingly, those that are being deported are Filipinos. So, we've seen in LA, like you said, the racial profiling of communities, immigrant communities. We're part of the rapid response as well. So we've seen it firsthand. And so we really feel the targeting discrimination that doesn't just impact the workers here, but impacts all Filipinos then here in the United States. The Filipinos on these boats don't really have ties to the mainlanders here, because they have visas, but just to work on the boats, and they come in very temporarily. So this has been going on for so many months under the radar, because they haven't had anyone to be able to talk to tell what's happening, or to gain support and help. And so that's why we're also here, is to support the workers, to push back on these unjust processes, because they are not getting legal representation. They're being punished for accusations that are baseless and have no evidence at all. It's not the American way.
This is about due process. The NAACP was built on due process and equality for all. And so in terms of what's happening with immigration, this could happen to anyone. There is a standard that's being set right now, and there's inconsistencies across the board on the way it's being handled, and it's being funded tremendously. So it's a major concern with the Virginia NAACP and NAACP as a whole. However, it's all about due process. Whether you're right or wrong, you deserve to have an attorney. You deserve to be able to call for help. And many of the immigrants are not getting that due process. In our community, we know about lack of due process. And so therefore, we're standing up, because this can be anyone. It could be any one of us. As I stated in my comments, we know about inequities in due process. We know about being picked up, driving while black, walking while black, and being murdered, or being picked up or falsely accused. It's in our history. So this is not a one issue. This is an issue across the board. And that's what we have concerns about, because there's a domino effect. And we want to make sure that this domino effect stops, and due process steps in. The 14th Amendment is there for a reason, and it's not being followed. And so we have to follow our Constitution. We have to follow the 14th Amendment. And that's the reason why the Constitution, Virginia was founded. The Constitution was founded here in Virginia, and so the bottom line to all of it is that we just want to make sure that we have due process, and make sure that everyone is treated fairly and equally. Angela Davis had did a quote that when they come for me in the night, they'll come for you in the morning. And so this is the reason why we're here today.
And then can I get your name real quick?
My name is Gaylene, Gaylene Knoyton. I am the Regional Vice President under Region 1 for the Virginia State Conference NAACP, and I'm also the Political Action Chair.
Can I go ahead and get your first name, please?
Monica.
Okay, and then you are with what organization?
The Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights.
And then with everything going on, how do you see Virginia, or just in general, the United States working with the Philippines government to try to get them back home, or at least these charges remanded and fully dropped without any repercussion to both the reputation and and affecting them in their future job searches?
There are no charges. There are no charges that we know of. And because there are no charges, they are not disclosing. It's only intimidation tactics that are being implemented on these hard-working visa holders. What we understand is that when there are no charges filed, there's nothing to report to the deporting country. And with the intimidation tactics that are being used, unfortunately, frightened people are signing away their rights. They're signing away the inability to not know that they have the right to due process. So these are just accusations without any credible proof, without any proof at all, actually. And then people are just being disappeared. They're being deported. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's no communication between the U.S. government and the Filipino government making such accusations, Or if there is, they would be forced to produce some sort of evidence. But they don't seem to even want to produce any evidence here, let alone in another country. So I would be very skeptical if they produce anything. But also CPP has been well known, and lots of members of Congress have voiced that they are just unresponsive, repeatedly unresponsive over and over and over again. And so because of that is why we need reporters like you, people like these who are able to go ahead and demand with the privilege of having U.S. citizenship and say, regardless of status, everyone deserves due process.
What they don't want is like intersectionality.
And then, do you have any words or any information with fears that maybe this could actually be also affecting any member of the Filipino community here? Although there are no ties with any of the people that were apprehended and deported, do you fear that maybe what's happening in LA with the riot, with the ICE raids as well, could be spreading along the East Coast, more specifically here in the Hampton Roads area?
So I would say, number one, the entire country is targeted. There was an article about a week and a half ago in the New York Times saying that Virginia is the number one target state in the country for ICE operations. What I will tell you is even if somebody doesn't personally know that individual, someone who's a community, an immigrant community, a person of color, we clench, we jump. It's why members of the NAACP immediately came out in support, because we know what it's like to be targeted just by xenophobia, the color of someone's skin. And I think, ultimately we have seen these aggressive, militaristic, inhumane operations happen, and which is why we demanded the call to action that folks go ahead and call President Trump, call the senators, call the member of Congress, and say this needs to stop. The only ones who can really stop this is them. But we know that at the end of the day, the buck stops with the voters. And it is the voters' responsibility to stand up for rights, because if they don't, we lose them.
Unfortunately, in this country,
And then, do you have any other calls to action to be able to continue bringing more light into this whole situation, should it happen in the future? As we know that Norfolk is one of the main ports that Carnival has actually been docking in.
I mean, the Virginia Coalition for Rights works with a lot of organizations within the Commonwealth and national partners, as well as this partner from Southern California. So we will continue to be vigilant. We will continue to go ahead and call attention to it when it happens. And then also just encourage folks, no matter who you are, even if you're a U.S. citizen, know your rights. Know your rights. Know that you have the right to remain silent. Know that you have the right to seek an attorney. Know your rights. There are lots of organizations, the ACLU, National Immigration Lawyers Committee, that have plastered immigrant rights, not just immigrants, constitutional rights everywhere. And so know your rights. That is what we're urging folks to do. And contact your member of Congress. Contact the White House.
Other cruise ships, like in Florida, where it's overwhelmingly Filipino, and there may be a few others, like maybe Indian. They're all from the lower ranking job positions, however, but overwhelmingly Filipino. Yes. Yes.
You said these people weren't charged. Why weren't they charged? For a crime that serious, I would think they would have to be charged before action is taken. Can you walk me through that?
Yes. So we do know that there have been cases in the past, even earlier this year, where there were real cases involving child pornography, which is very serious. And our group also does a lot of anti-human trafficking work as well. So we also take that accusation very seriously. So in those cases, they had evidence and they prosecuted. So the individuals are serving time, like 5 years for the charge, and their visas are being canceled on that basis. But that is not what's happening with overwhelmingly, what's happening here. None of the workers on the Carnival Sunshine cruise have been charged with anything. And what we think is because there is actually... our next speaker is Monica Sarmiento, Executive Director of the Virginia Coalition of Immigrant Rights.
Okay, go do your thing, and then I'm going to confirm this number.
This latest assault on visa-holding immigrant workers is just the latest assault of due process in the United States. Something that our country was founded on with the understanding and belief that everyone deserves the opportunity to be proven innocent, be it held innocent until proven guilty. This is something that is a bedrock of our Constitution, of American democracy, and something that is uniquely an American value. These continuous assaults have been devastating across our country. This is just the latest attack of people being really prosecuted for nothing more than xenophobia. The United States has been facing a 50-year worker shortage. 2 years ago, the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis showed that Virginia had the 7th largest need for workers in the United States. And here, the country where politicians say you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, are being kicked out, harassed, and absolutely devastated emotionally, economically, and at the same time, devastating our own economy. What is our American government doing? They are not standing up for our values. These values that we hold so dear, that our families, our morality at the forefront shows that a work ethic and someone who wants to go ahead and prove themselves by providing not only for themselves, but pay taxes into our society is unwelcomed, is far more than just unkind, it's inhumane. And we are so incredibly frustrated with this system, and we will not be silent. We will continue to speak up. We will continue to say names. We will continue to show up and say, we know our rights. We know they have rights. We urge them to know their rights. And we stand here and say, we are not alone. In pluribus unum, out of many, we are one. And we will continue to fight, we will continue to organize, and we will continue to demand for the basic dignities that so many of our forebears died for these rights. They marched and died for these rights. And because of that, we stand here demanding and urging that every single person call the White House, email President Trump, and let them know what you think of visa-holding immigrants who are working hard to pay their bills, support their families, and pay taxes. How you feel about that. How you feel about this economic devastation that we are suffering when the economy is supposed to be the pivotal part of the American system, and the jealousy of the world, we're seeing a wrecking ball to it as workers continue to be attacked, and we will not stand for it. One of the most important things is that this is a melting pot. We have all been educated and told that this is a melting pot where we can come here, and no matter where you come from, what language you speak, you too can be part of the American dream. But now, what we're seeing in this devastating act is that those who have access to the American dream are those who fit a certain pedigree, those who have already access to influence and money, and that is not what this country was founded on. It was founded on the knowledge and belief that we all should have access to prosperity. We are one of the few constitutions in the world that has the pursuit of happiness written in it, sacred in it, that we all have looked to it. Now is the time for people, call your member of Congress, call the senators, and call President Trump. Keep calling him, call every day. Email the White House and tell them they are devastating families. This is an assault on American morality, and they need to stop what they're doing. Thank you so much.
And our next speaker is Rebecca Wynn from the NAACP.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Attorney Rebecca Wynn. I'm a proud member of the Hampton unit of the NAACP, and I also serve as the Legal Redress Chair. I want to speak about the funding issues and the concerns happening here. We are being told that the recent increase in ICE funding is for our safety, yet ICE now receives more money than many militaries receive representing countries around the world. ICE is now the largest funded or the highest funded law enforcement agency in our country. We're told it's for our safety, yet ICE is now receives funding far beyond the FBI, receives funding far beyond that of the DEA, the agency charged with keeping drugs off of our streets. But here we are funding ICE. Meanwhile, we are defunding our education. We are defunding the access for our elderly and our aging community. We are defunding access to food. We are defunding access to scientific research and to our health. We're being lied to. Thank you.
So now we want to open it up for questions. Are there any questions from press?
Yeah, so you spoke earlier about, a call to action regarding, reaching out to the White House. But is there any concern with Carnival and their protection or lack thereof of their employees?
Yes, we are calling on Carnival to protect their workers, to actually provide them with legal support, and to question these practices. They should be protecting their workers. Their workers help to make their ships and their business successful. So it's important for them to also protect the rights of their workers that are being denied here.
Has anybody with Carnival spoken on the topic of these CBP agents approaching the ship and talking to these people?
They have been quiet so far, and we haven't been able to talk to them. So we are also trying to reach out so that we can have a dialogue with them, but we are also asking that legislators ask Carnival as well. We're also asking the Philippine government, the embassy, because these are Philippine nationals who are being impacted, to also launch inquiries around this case as well.
What was the interval this happened? Like, how many of these the raids were there, if it's fair to call them raids? And walk me through how many times this happened.
So on this Carnival Sunshine cruise, the detentions have happened since April 13th. So every time they pick up maybe 1, 2, up to 9 people at one time. So April 13th, and I can give you the exact schedule, but April 13th, later in April, there are also 2 dates in May, as well as June 28th, and 2 dates in July, where they were picking up and deporting individuals.
And do you mind just describing how that happens? You mentioned that Carnival employees were working with CBP officers. Can you give me more on that?
Well, what the workers know is that Carnival security officers have accompanied the CBP officers in, and they haven't heard any questions from Carnival or any pushback on CBP, and when they get back to the Philippines and they check into Carnival, they're just terminated. So we think this is very unfair. Usually it happens early in the morning because they dock about 7 o'clock a.m. And shortly after is usually when CBP officers might board the ship. It's regular for CBP officers to board for checking for doing their normal processing, but on these dates, they're going in and approaching individuals. We don't know how they're determining that, but taking them to the local office here of the CBP office to interrogate them, and sometimes they're returned to the ships and then on different dates taken, but everyone who's been questioned has been deported, sometime on the same day, sometimes on dates in the future.
So to be clear, the ship makes port, officers board the ship, and then they're brought off?
And then they're brought off, yes. So the boat docks, the workers are not getting off the boats. So as you saw with the testimony from Jasmer, he was working, and oftentimes they don't even get off because they're preparing for the new ship, for the new passengers to board. So they'll be leaving even in a few hours later this afternoon. So they're very briefly here. They're not actually, because sometimes they are questioned, about whether they're thinking of staying here, trying to jump ship and stay here. But Filipinos also have a very good record of not doing that, and they value their jobs a lot. So, and oftentimes they're just not even getting off of the boats, but CBP is going onto the boats, taking them off of the boats to deport them. And we do believe that this does really seem in line with trying to raise their numbers of deportations on a vulnerable population. These workers don't have ties to local local people here because their families are in the Philippines. So they haven't had anyone to reach out to report this to, or anyone to reach out to for help in the process, and it happens very quickly. So so they were finally able to reach out to us through, because it's happened so many times, there are workers that were on the internet trying to find some assistance because they're terrified every time they dock. They don't know who's going to be targeted. And they were able to find the Rapid Response Network hotline for Los Angeles, and they called there, and that's how they got connected to Philipino Workers Center.
Hi, I love that you guys are doing this. My biggest question is, why are we not here at 7 a.m. when the deportations are happening?
Well, yes, so why weren't we here at 7 a.m.? Partly it is about gathering. I'm also from California, and we actually pulled this together very quickly. The workers reached out to us. We didn't realize that this was something that was going to be happening this weekend. So we had to actually mobilize very quickly, and it would be very difficult also to get folks here at 7 a.m. But what we did do is we actually did get an attorney and attorneys who have volunteered to support the workers in the case of deportation. So yesterday we were able to get them numbers of a number of the attorney who would represent them, so that in the process they could actually ask for legal representation. A lot of times they didn't have any connection, so they didn't know what their rights were or what they could do. So we're trying to help to connect them. So through the process, hopefully today we can intervene and that they can actually access legal consultation. So after this, I'll be checking in to see if he's been able to call into the attorney, so that we could try and act quickly to really intervene in the process with legal representation. Well, the thing is, so CBP doesn't have warrants when they're coming and doing this, but this is a port, so it's a little bit different than other areas. It's not necessary for them to have warrants, but they are clearly making accusations and posing the basis for their cancellation of visas on these accusations, again, without filing any charges or giving them any due process or process to be able to refute these accusations against them before being. What they've said is they're taking to the CBP office, which is down the street over here, across the street, and then sometimes they're held in a hotel overnight before taken to the airport or sometimes they're taken directly to the airport and held at the airport for long periods of time. They said also that oftentimes they go long times without the food, and like it was hard to get water, you know, and they also were handcuffed and kind of paraded in front of people. So far for these workers, they haven't been detained in a jail or like a different detention center. It's been CBP, hotel, airport, and back to the Florida, where it's overwhelmingly Filipino, and there may be a few others, like maybe Indian. They're all from the lower ranking job positions, however, but overwhelmingly Filipino, yes. Yes.
You said these people weren't charged. Why weren't they charged? For a crime that serious, I would think they would have to be charged before action is taken. Can you walk me through that?
Yes. So we do know that there have been cases in the past, even earlier this year, where there were real cases involving child pornography, which is very serious. And our group also does a lot of anti-human trafficking work as well. So we also take that accusation very seriously. So in those cases, they had evidence and they prosecuted. So the individuals are serving time, like 5 years for the charge, and their visas are being canceled on that basis. But that is not what's happening with overwhelmingly, what's happening here. None of the workers on the Carnival Sunshine cruise have been charged with anything. For CBP to look through them all, and no evidence has been found. And when they ask, because sometimes CBP will say, oh, we have evidence. And the workers will say, well, show us the evidence, because they know it can't be true. And so, of course, if there's accusations and evidence, especially for something that's serious, it should be charged. It should be prosecuted. And that's not what's happening here. So we really see it that it seems really as just a justification for deporting more hardworking migrants.
So how then are Filipino authorities handling this when they reach the Philippines?
Well, we're in conversations with the Philippine government right now, and they have been more involved in the cases where there were actual child pornography that was happening, and so we're informing them more about what's happening now. It seems that they haven't been as aware of this, the accusations and deportations based on no evidence. So we're in conversation with them right now to take a look at this, and this is not the same thing as what's happened before. And actually, those ones didn't happen here in Norfolk. Also, they happened in other areas, so we are calling on the Philippine government, the Philippine embassy, to intervene here for Philippine nationals, because this is a case of violations of their rights, and a lot of harm. So we're actively engaging with them. Yes.
Have you heard from any of the workers who were taken away as to why or how this accusation came to be? Was it from a passenger on the ship who might have saw something, or from another worker? Do we have any idea how this came to be?
The workers do not know where this came from. There's the CBP, from the different testimony that the workers gave, said that CBP would say that they have evidence. Just tell them that they have evidence so that they should just admit to it. But they never bring out any evidence, and they aren't actually charging them. So we don't know, it doesn't seem, we don't have any reports that there's any actual reports of anything happening. Yeah, I don't know if, yeah, so we don't know exactly where it's coming from. Our suspicion is really that it's a part of them trying to build more of their numbers around deportations, and this is a very vulnerable population who doesn't have any ties here, and they've been able to be taken away because they have no support and no help.
And you mentioned that many of these workers on the ship are Filipino or Filipino.
Yes, a lot of the crew members, the Filipinos around the world, actually are staffing a lot of the cruise ships and even cargo ships around the world. So we do make up a lot of the workforce, and we make these ships run, really, from housekeeping to cooking, chefs, attendants, entertainers as well. So there are a lot of Filipinos, but not only Filipinos who are working on these ships. What they also observed is that there are no managers or like supervisor level individuals that are also being targeted, and oftentimes those are folks that are not Filipino. Any more questions? So we're going to close the conference here, but if you want to have any like individual interviews, especially Gayleen, who I didn't give the microphone to.
We get picked up, so we're good. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. And we're going to be here because we do know that already there has been one worker who has been taken this morning. We're also in active conversation with the attorneys and with also trying to get legislators to do inquiries so that we can intervene before he is deported. And I just want to thank everyone who is here to support the seafarers because they really want to have their voices heard. They want their stories to be heard. They want, and they just want justice. They want to just work and be able to support their families like anyone. And anyone who's gone on a cruise ship knows how hard the attendants work, right? How hard they work to be able to provide a good experience. And so, we should value them and respect their dignity. And if they are accused of something, they deserve due process as well. Thank you.
Due process for all. Due process for all. Due process is law. Due process is law.
All right. If I can go ahead and get your first name, sir, if you would like to give it.
My name's Clay, C-L-A-Y.
And then what brings you out here with to be able to help the whole cause with the current detainment of the Filipino workers under the Carnival Sunshine Cruise?
Well, I think it's terrible. ICE is going on the ships and taking workers off, immigrant workers who have valid visas to work on the ships and cleaning the rooms, working the galleys, cooking, whatever. But they're not. ICE isn't going after criminals. These are not criminals whatsoever. It's just easy pickings. So, and they're workers with visas. The country is built on immigrants. We all come from immigrants. The immigrants are working in the United States on the ships, in the fields, planting and picking our food, in hotel rooms, construction sites. Our whole economy is built on having immigrants as workers. And they're our neighbors and family and friends, and they live in our communities. So that's why I turn out.
And then with the whole situation with their due process, not essentially them not receiving due process but being deported, how do you see seeing that affecting any future dockings of the Carnival ships in itself or any other of the cruise liners around the country, them being not only just Filipino workers being targeted, but any worker of a different ethnic group or fits a certain profile?
Well, if I were a worker, I'd be pretty scared if I put myself in their shoes. But I think that the whole thing is a money scam anyway. It's the billions of dollars that are being appropriated by MAGA from us, our taxpayer money, the billions of dollars that now they're using to these detention centers, which are money-making private prisons, and the whole system is a money grab by MAGA. So and Trump's getting kickbacks. They donated to his money to his campaigns before the campaign. He's getting it back now through the back door. profit-wise from the companies, and I would forecast that as far as these ships are concerned, that if Carnival gave them a campaign donation, that they would back off Carnival. It's probably, I'm not a conspiracy theorist in any sense of the word, but if you follow the money, and that's what you do with Trump. Follow the money.
All right, if I can go ahead and get your first name.
Jean.
And then with everything that's going on, how do you see the current situation with the apprehended Filipino workers with Carnival Sunshine Cruise being detained under no charges, but the speculation that they may have committed a crime but have no due process?
How would any human being with a conscience and a social conscience feel about seeing fellow human beings be so oppressed and being denied their rights? It's outrageous. Yeah.
And then would you like to give any other words specific to the whole situation, any personal opinions, or any other calls to action?
I just wish that we were closer to the folks over there at the ship so that we would be able to get more attention. Yeah.